LEC post-game lobby for the first time in summer. I'm Sjokz, joined by Quickshot. I'm just trying to ignore him, but he's like, he's not
busting a move. The music has been so good. Kevin picked awful Picks and Bands music in spring, fantastic Picks and Bands music in summer.
That is a great point. Now, also, if you were wondering where the Vetheo interview has gone, we will get to it. But since we are still, of course, remote with the players at home, sometimes it takes a bit of time to set things up. But no worries, Grandma and Granddad are here to talk you through the first day of the LEC summer. And I mean, what a fantastic game to end out on. Fnatic versus Misfits. I know you are, of course, a bit partial to the Misfits, and it was very exciting to see Vetheo in his first role in the jungle, but it was Misfits that ran over them.
It was crazy exciting. I actually think nobody can argue with the following statement that Fnatic are the most exciting European team to watch.
And like best of one.
Ever. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter the roster, it doesn't matter the players, it doesn't matter the meta, and it doesn't matter the year. Fnatic just seem to have this animal style, as it was once called, that's really exciting. They got ahead early. I Will Dominate had a fantastic tweet saying, "Stop it, Vetheo, you're making us look bad." And then, you know, there was a few mistakes, and he's like, okay, cool, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think all credit here to Misfits. They dug deep, they fell behind early. It was pop-off quadra kills, multiple of them from Vetheo, and it's just kind of an echo of spring, like the potential's there. And let's call out the fact that for Fnatic, it is a new roster, role swap, new player in the top lane, right? So there are things, especially in the late game, that needs time to learn on this stage that are different from scrim.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we always say time helps, of course, but, you know, you have to start winning also if you're Fnatic with the eye on kind of the World Championship that you're wanting to get to those playoffs where you get to, where you want to get to. So you want to start early, but this was a great early game.
It was. It absolutely was a fantastic early game. The draft played out interestingly as well. Gwen being banned on the blue side was something I want to track for Fnatic, how that'll continue to pan out. Seeing Vetheo on Rumble as well, one of the only champions that still remains 100% presence. LCS, LCK, LPL, LEC. I was very excited to see him on that one. I was a little surprised for the Razork Udyr, but when he flashed under the tower to pick up that kill onto Niski, I was like, well, this is a signal what Misfits want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be able to talk to Razork actually later as well in PGL. I don't know when he will be connecting. We are trying to figure it out.
Berlin Internet.
Berlin Internet, man. It's a meme. But let's also talk a bit then about Misfits, because I feel like we're being an apologist for Fnatic, even though they have lost the game. They weren't able to execute on their comp until the end of the game. And Misfits, they held on and then they picked their moments. And Vetheo has found another pop-off champion, which he has been rumored to do very well on in solo queue so far. But it paid off here. 2 quadra kills and really fantastic team fight effort from the side of the Misfits.
I mean, coming into the LEC once Vetheo was promoted, his Akali was the signature pick. And then while it was the Zoe on the LEC stage that really was the shining light of the star, you can see in this performance his mechanics, his movement was just mind-blowing. This was one of the quadra kills that really cemented a fantastic win. And I had actually said in the pregame, Sjokz, that Misfits and Fnatic, their win-loss is 6 wins to Fnatic, and now 5 wins to Misfits. It's one of the rivalries or the duos that gets a little bit unsung because the teams traditionally are so far apart in the playoffs and the postseason. So you don't get to build it up much like you have G2 and Mad or G2 and Rogue to a degree. I do think it is important to recognize, though, that the style that Fnatic employs, the aggression, the skirmish heavy, it actually allows a scrappy team like Misfits those opportunities. Had Fnatic been cleaner and more controlled, they may not have seen those quadra kills that got Misfits back into the game.
Exactly, but they did, and Misfits won off the back of a great performance out of Vetheo, and Laure is standing by with the Frenchman.
Thank you, Sjokz, and thank you, Berlin Internet, for being a bit merciful with us during this last interview. Vetheo, thank you so much for joining me. Congrats on winning the first game. It was actually close up until the point you won. What did it come down to?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's like game was really, really close. I mean, we trolled a bit after we came back from good fight on Drake. And yeah, the last fight was... I can't explain. And after we won the last fight, we say, yeah, guys, it's fine. We will just try to end. Even if it doesn't work, at least we go as far. We go together and we will end, and we will see if it works.
That is a fantastic motivation and team spirit from Misfits here. And I want to say, nice flex on Akali, Vetheo. That was an amazing performance. 2 quadra kills within 1 game. Tell me about the confidence this game from you and for the whole split, actually. How are you feeling right now when it comes to summer split?
I mean, I'm really confident compared to spring speed. I think I learned so much during the spring split and during the off season. I worked a lot on myself and on the game. I played a lot, and during the game, it's like I had other choice of playing Akali, but I wanted to play Akali so badly, so I just said, yeah, it's fine. Even if it's bad matchup, just go Akali. I will smurf the game. I got stomped early, but after it's fine. I smurf, and it's like last time first game against Fnatic, I got stomped in lane, but they can't do anything after.
I agree. Nice flashback for Fnatic here. And as you said, you smurfed. That's actually the right words to use here. And for some people who saw it, you were actually smurfing on Akali during the whole off-season in solo queue. So many highlights, cool highlights that people can check. But tell me about Akali as a champion, how strong it is in the meta right now, because your performance just got you player of the game, Vetheo.
I mean, Akali is one of my favorite champ for sure, and I was very sad that I couldn't play her during Spring Split because she was just not meta. She got buff for the beginning of playoff, but sadly we didn't make it. So yeah, I'm happy that now she's good, she's fine. It might be broken in some game, but I don't think it's like that much of a power pick compared to like Gwen and stuff. But yeah, the champ is for sure playable, so I'm really happy.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to be happy here. And you mentioned playoff. You came close to reaching playoff in your first season as a rookie in the LEC. And I know you're very competitive, so it was not enough for you. But coming into summer, thinking about summer, what are your goals here? And how do you make them a reality for Misfits?
I mean, our goal, if I can, is to make Worlds. I don't think we can miss playoff. It's like we were one game away from being fourth, actually, when we played not really good during Spring Split, and I was really not that good. I mean, I think I can improve so much still, but I improve a lot between the Spring Split and summer. And yeah, I mean, I missed playoff once, and I said, okay, I'm really boosted, and I will make sure it won't happen again. And that's why I worked so much to just never miss playoff again.
Classic Vetheo, being hard on himself as usual, but that's how you get competitive. And I mean, that was a very first cool game from you. And reaching playoffs is at your reach, as you said. So yeah, a lot of stuff being said here for Misfits, a lot of goals for you. But Vetheo, for now, thank you very much for the interview and good luck on the rest of Super League.
Thank you.
And Sjokz, back to you.
Thank you very much, Laure. And yeah, great to hear from Vetheo there, speaking to as well, yeah, not feeling like he maybe reached his full potential. They didn't make it to playoffs. And of course, as a new player, you're going to take that upon yourself. But we see there the joy, because beating Fnatic is no small feat. And carrying on this Akali is also no small feat.
It's fantastic. It's also, there's an air of confidence in Vetheo in this interview. That wasn't quite there in spring, right? And like Laure had said, it was the debut season to the stage. It was his rookie season here in the LEC. Coming back with that experience under your belt, coming back with the same roster, and then also the support from the organization. When you see the number of teams that have made changes, the number of rosters that have swapped, there is something in you that gives you that drive, right? I think it was Zanzara earlier today was talking about how there's an advantage to teams that have maintained the same roster, and you can see some of that shining through.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. He was even saying, I don't understand why you would make changes after a single split. And I think that all comes down to the philosophy of the team, and we never know what's going on behind closed doors. But I think in Misfits very much so, even in their scoreline and the fact that they only narrowly missed out on playoffs, you see the potential on that lineup in front of your eyes. But it does have to deliver, and more importantly, maybe, it has to keep evolving as the other teams get better. How do you feel about the possibilities with this Misfits roster, with this one game sample size?
It is one game sample size today, but we do have the entirety of spring. And if I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't have as much faith in Misfits as an organization to continue the development, in contrast to what we've seen from Mad Lions and Rogue. But I would say the same thing about Vitality. I would say the same thing about SK. I would say the same thing about XL. It is difficult to show consistent growth, to show consistent development improvement. But in order to do that, you need to have a foundation that works. And I think for the first time in arguably years, Misfits and this roster actually is a foundation that I believe you can build on. And I think when you saw some of the highlights in spring, when you see a game like this and you see Vetheo pop off, we saw what Hirit could do, who was completely unknown, complete shock. Like we randomly import a Korean top laner to EU, and there was nearly no imports for such a long time. But he showed his what he can do on the Rift and his abilities. So I do think there is potential. I think I'm not going to get too excited yet, right? The proof is in the pudding. We need to see them actually make it to playoffs. We need to see this game's happening more, because we've seen Misfits shine really bright and then the light bulb gets switched off.
Yeah, and it is a very long season, and the road to Worlds is long as well. As for the final note on Bwipo's debut, I would say he did what he had to do as a jungler, right, in the early game. As we are now joined by Razork, I believe. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Hello.
Hello. Congratulations. What a game. Yeah, how do you feel after the first game of spring and beating Fnatic?
Well, I'm feeling really happy right now. I mean, we have been working together for a long time, and especially this off-season. We are like screaming for 1 month already. So, I mean, I'm happy that we start with a win.
Absolutely, and you mentioned it there. This is a project now that you've had a lot of time to work together, and you kept scrimming when Mad Lions went to MSI and maybe some other teams were dealing with changes. So you had actually a unique opportunity to keep working on the things that you wanted to work on. Can you lift a veil and maybe tell us a bit about specifically what some of the focuses were from spring to summer for Misfits?
Yeah, I mean, well, I feel like as a team, we have really good talent as individuals. But I think the main issue why we didn't reach playoffs in Spring Split was because we were doing solo plays. We were not playing as a team, right? And I think in this month, we are trying to be more together inside and outside of the game. And I think it's helping us a lot right now in terms of like synergy. We are like really close to each other. We are moving towards a family, and I think that's helping us right now to play better. And I think this game, I mean, from my perspective, it was a bit doomed, but we didn't give up. We didn't give up, and we actually managed to come back somehow.
I mean, I'm glad you said it, maybe, because, you know, you're up versus someone, an autofill jungler, right? Someone who's just changed into the jungle, who was a top laner. I mean, no disrespect, that is just a joke. But, and this guy racks up, I don't know, 1 million kills on Rumble in the early game. Is there something in you, as someone who is just a dedicated lifelong jungler, that you could identify in kind of the enemy, Bwipo being a newer jungler, that you could kind of instill calm in your team and being like, hey, I know how this works. I know how it works when I'm fed on Rumble, and I can still lose games, so he can also lose games? Or is there anything that you could do to calm your team down from that perspective?
Well, I mean, I think Bwipo in this game, he actually got really fed. He was like 1v9, and when I saw like he was 5-0 on Rumble, I'm like, no way, I'm actually losing to Bwipo jungle in this game. But I mean, he actually did some mistakes in some fights. I think he needs a bit of practice in terms of like knowing what to do, because in my opinion, it's so hard for me to track him because he's doing crazy things. I don't know. I just don't expect him to do what he's doing. But that happens a lot in solo queue when you play against autofill players. I mean, it's like they do unexpected things, and it could be a surprise factor that could be good for him. But in my opinion, it's hard as a jungle main to track what he's doing. Just saying.
It's not a surprise though, right? Because he's new to this level of play. And this is what we were talking about during Ready Check as well. For the transition, despite the fact that Bwipo is doing very well in solo queue, very highly ranked, the skill set, the communication, the differences, I really respect and appreciate Razork, not only the honesty of being like, I'm doomed, I'm losing to Bwipo, but I also appreciate the sentiment. I can hear a slight difference in, you know, the excitement in Vetheo's interview, the excitement in your own voice here today. Can I ask you what you think? Why is it that your team and Misfits tend to have such a good track record against Fnatic? Because it's another win. You guys always seem to have really crazy games. There's also been many where you've thrown at Baron or Nexuses where that's happened too.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But why is it that against Fnatic you two seem so evenly matched?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it was last year when we threw 2 games against them, when we had like 10k goal lead. And this Spring Split, we won both times against them. And I don't know, I just feel like the playstyle of Fnatic is like they fight a lot, and we like to fight a lot too. because as I said before, I feel like we have a lot of talent in the team and we are good mechanically with our champs. So we can outplay, you can say outplay or beat them in that fights and get a big lead. But it's like, I think we struggle more playing against teams like Rogue because they are slow, and then it's like harder for us to play the macro game. But when we face Fnatic, it feels like we're just gonna fight, and whoever wins.
I love
wins.
it. I love it. Okay, Razork, you've got to stick with me for a second, okay? Because for the very first game of 2021, it is a Friday. We open with Super Week. Misfits take on Fnatic in Game 5. There's no ways in hell Misfits are going to win. Can't happen, right? Vetheo then pops off on Zoe, and I want to remind you what that game looked like. Can we take a look at the scoreboard of that spring split Game 1? Look at this, okay? Absolutely pops off after 11 minutes. Misfits go on to dominate Fnatic. That was the very first game. Now I want to swap over to today's game. Sort of the inverse is true, where Fnatic, they pop off to a crazy, crazy early game. Fnatic get ahead in the lead. Look at this gold graph that'll pop up onto your screen in a moment, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Misfits are the ones that turn it around. Once again, off the back of a Vetheo performance. Now I want to look forward, because we've talked about the players, we've talked about the past, we talked about the development. Razork, how do you look me in the eyes as one of Misfits' biggest fans and promise me that you're going to do better against the likes of Rogue? Against the likes, I know you're going to beat Fnatic. There's no doubt in my mind. 2-0 this time, right? But we want to make playoffs. We want to see how Misfits get it. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, I think this summer split we will get playoffs 100%, like for sure. I mean, we can't miss it again. And to make playoffs, I feel like we need to play better against the weaker teams, like the bottom table teams, because I think last split we are 0-2 against SK and 0-2 against Vitality. And we were 2-0 against Matt and 2-0 against Fnatic. So it feels like we are really inconsistent with our level. And when we play against better team, we kind of get hyped. So we just need to, actually tomorrow is a really important match. We play SK. Mm-hmm. To me, they didn't look too strong today. So we will see what happens tomorrow. We hope we don't grief and lose again.
Another out-of-field jungler. What's going on? It's all you're playing.
Oh my God.
You don't know what Treats is gonna do. You know, at least Hexflash is not available. Final question, maybe that I want to know about also, like for the games tomorrow in terms of meta and 11.11. We saw you falling back to the Udyr, which is something, of course, we saw a lot of junglers on back at MSI. But it was weird to me that it necessarily fell down to that for you. It also seemed like outside of the Viego, we've seen a lot of standard comps, the things that we were expecting. The Rumble priority still being very high. Razork, do you think this is just because it's the beginning of the season and teams are just playing what they're used to, or is this just the path we're going to stay on for the next couple of weeks?
I think it might change a little bit, but I don't think it's going to go too wild. I feel like right now in the jungle, how I feel is like you can play many different champions and you can success on most of them. It just feels like there's so many broken champions right now that I don't know, it just feels so hard to not get an OP champion in your team, and most of the OP champions are jungle. I don't know, it's just like crazy.
That's actually super interesting. And it's also interesting that your first two games are against like the newest junglers, right, in Bwipo and in Treats. But can I also ask you to chime in on the fact that now the meta is being defined and you're also playing against players that you can't expect. Does that make it significantly harder to prepare? You know, we kind of joked a little bit about it. You can't read Bwipo. And we saw Treats and SK today a little questionable. But does that complicate it or does it simplify it?
Well, I think it complicates it a little bit. I mean, also, it's the first game I play with the new patch where the jungle camps spawn 15 seconds later, and you have more room to do plays and do wild things. In the last patch, you just do full clear into play, into Drake, and it was really repetitive. And now you can pick champs and actually do some cheese ganks. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we will see some level 2 ganks coming up probably this patch. So I don't know, I think you have more room to like do plays without getting too punished in the jungle.
That's always a good thing if we can see junglers being a bit more inventive, if they have more time for that. Let's take a look at the standings, and with 11 roster changes coming into summer, see where things have landed. Of course, Astralis is at the top of the table. Screenshot it, management. Never get rid of it. But hey, they had an insanely scrappy game versus SK that then they pulled out, so that's hopeful. Of course, you know, it's only ever 1 win, 1 loss for all the teams, but I feel like we've learned a lot already today.
We have. I think I want to start and take a look at the Vitality game. I was actually doing a practice cast with Gulborg. He and I are going to shoutcast on Sunday, and we were doing the Vitality game. And before the game started, we said it on Ready Check, we said it on the analyst desk. We talked about how Leader and Selfmade are going to combo and play very, very aggressive, and they did it. And it was very exciting to watch. So I want to ask Razork, first of all, what do you think of like their performance in their game? And also, what's your take on all of the roster changes? You know, so many different teams have made player swaps coming to summer.
Well, answering the first question, I think like Leader and Selfmade in Vitality, they are like really scary in my opinion, because they are a duo that they will play like legit the weird champions in the game. I don't know, we might see like set jungle with like I don't know, a Kali mid, or we will see what Leader brings, but I think they are like type of players that like to bring new stuff and just like permafight like us actually. And about the roster changes, probably it feels like they need time, right, to get used to the league. I don't blame them. Like, for example, I think Kirei today had a rough start, but I think he's like a great player and he will show up in the next weeks.
It's very kind of you to say. Indeed, you know, we tend to make a lot of conclusions after singular games.
Especially I do.
Especially you do. This was also great, actually. Selfmade looks very happy with his bunny hat. I think it's a bunny.
It was actually so much fun. I got to shoot one of the adverts promoting Summer with Selfmade, and he spoke so highly of Leader in terms of the play style. And Leader earlier today, in a fantastic interview with Laure, talked about how he didn't actually have a relationship with Selfmade, but their approach to the game, the way they like to play, the way they'd sort of synced up in solo queue and approached the play style, the champions, etc., really matched up. The thing that I want to see is how long will it take until that double-edged sword stabs them, until they put their hand in the fire and get burned. Because I do think there is a predictable nature to that chaos, right? And I think while Razork has been very honest that Misfits like to fight, I don't think the way they fight is quite as anticipable or predictable.
I think you mean Vitality.
Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we'll see tomorrow what happens. Let's take a look at the games that we have on the docket. There are 18 this weekend. We already got 6 down our belts, but they're down our belts. What? That sounded wrong. The match of the week, though, is Mad Lions versus Fnatic. So 2 teams that lost. Great job, production team, on picking them. I can see the Reddit threads already.
Also, it's 15 games because you're in the MSI mindset of not 16.
Oh, right, it is 15 games.
I love that Razork has already talked about the SK game. I agree it's going to be super important to see whether or not they lose to the teams at the bottom of the table. But I want to get Razork's prediction on 2 of the matchups there. Rogue versus Vitality and Fnatic versus Mad. Who wins?
I'm saying Rogue and Mad. And I think Excel will win too against Astralis. What's the other one? I don't know what's the other one.
I missed the other game, so it's obviously...
But you're playing SK.
Yeah, you guys are playing SK. I didn't need predictions for all of them, but I'm really like, you're going for the gold star today. You're going for the gold star today. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm not scared.
Oh damn! It's been a very fun PGL. Sorry if it was a bit loosey-goosey, but it's 30 degrees.
We're losing our minds. I mean,
Celsius.
Grandma and Grandpa over here, you know, it's getting
really
tough.
AC has still not been invented in Berlin, as good internet has also not been invented yet. So that's what we're dealing with. Razork, thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to take a PGL selfie with you, since we unfortunately can't have the players in the studio. And
does that mean I have to be in it as well?
You do.
Oh, okay. How does this work? I feel like such a boomer doing these things.
It's really not that difficult. So Razork doesn't have to do anything. We'll just be here. And I'll try to get the peace sign in. Yeah. Perfect. Muchas gracias.
De nada, hombre.
Okay, adios. And that was all from us here in Berlin on the opening day of LEC Summer. Be sure to tune in to the LCS, TSM, and 100 Thieves are kicking off the action. We'll be back tomorrow for more Liga Legando. See you then. Germany for the opening day of the LEC summer season. The wait is finally over, and after one of the most eventful mid-seasons we have ever seen, the expectations have been thrown out of the window. Week 1 starts with a clash between new and former champions as G2 Esports are coming in with a lot to prove versus the Mad Lions.
But that's going to be the hook walk down. That's so much CC. Jesse doesn't want to follow up here. Ezreal dodged out conveniently just in time. Jesse now moving over. He manages to make it out. Oh, there's the TP though. TP coming in a little bit later. Dash not going to come out, but here is the pillar for follow-up. Leeson in the area as well. That's the flash. Kick him right to the wall and finish him off. The double bruisers. The wall moves over. Going to find the kick immediately. That's the one shot into the 80 carry. That is everything that Astralis needed. And that is game 1 for Astralis. What a finish.
Here comes Inspired. And it might be time for an equalizer. First blood to Inspired. Fake call comes out, and Dan is CC'd to death. Burnt to a crisp as Inspired puts down the red carpet. Rogue will open up their ledger. A dominant victory here. Kire, remember, has no flash. Spectral Moore gets the stun. Wind becomes lightning, and Kire becomes dead. Leader gets his first kill in the LEC summer season. 4-0 right now. 3,500 gold ahead. LeBron here in the mid lane. Nuclear in getting bossed away. The Heartbreaker not quite enough. Dominance will give him a life. Glacial Fisher knocks him up in the Ignite. Tick, tick, ticks. As LeBron takes the kill. Now, will Miskers take this fight? Niski low down to half HP. Here goes Whippo, and Razork is burnt to an absolute crisp. Niski flashes across the wall. Whippo now stuck in the Dragon Pit by himself. Banda trying to go in. Vetheo dives across, but the feathers fly, and it's a triple for Whippo.
50 points to Gryffindor as he gets himself the triple kill.
Right off the side, Yankees is right in his face. He's going to go for the bank gate. They're going to follow. Mickey's there with the follow CC as well. That's going to be another charm coming in. Mickey just too clean this game. Rex was finding a kill off to the side. Everybody on Mad is just getting torn to pieces. G2 now push in and will end their first game in the summer season, taking a game over the current LEC champions.
Let's go. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year. Up top. This is up top. Here we go.